What's up guys, I wanted to show you some of the cool features you can have with installing a custom kernel on your Nexus 4. Now there are a lot of different custom kernels you can have from the XDA threads. In this video I'm going to be checking out Fox's because I've already got his app and his kernel looked interesting to me, so I'm checking that out. I will be making other videos on the custom kernels like Trinity, so if you're interested in those, keep your eye out, I will be doing them. But yeah, let's talk about Fox's app. And I didn't mean to open that at all. And we'll go over to Fox Clock, which you can get from the Play Store. It is a paid app, but it is worth it. There's loads of different controls here. And here we go. So I've already installed the custom kernel, so it's given me all the controls that I can have. And let me show you the default behavior of most kernels, like the stock. And you will have MP Decision on by default in stock kernel. And you can read here, MP Decision is Qualcomm's closed source proprietary CPU hot plug driver. Highly recommend turning it off when using my kernels. He says highly recommend turning it off because he has his own version of MP Decision, which is better, running in the background. So you might as well turn it off because it does a better job and it's just better in general. Now let me show you some of the problems with MP Decision. If I hold my finger on the screen here, you can see minimum clock rate jumps up to 1 gigahertz. Now that might be good for performance and smoothness, but it's wasted. So every time I'm using my phone, every time I put my finger to the screen, the clock rate doesn't go below 1 gigahertz. The problem with that, guys, is you'll produce a lot more heat and you'll waste a lot of battery when you don't need it. So he's given you the option here to turn off MP Decision. You can ramp the minimum clock rate down to 384, which is the lowest. And now when I put my finger on the screen, you can see the clock rate doesn't jump up on the minimum. So it will use all the CPU frequencies when it can. Now, you don't lose any performance, really. You can see my OS is still very smooth here. No problems with it whatsoever. Instead, you're just going to be saving battery life and a little bit less heat being produced by the phone. So it's a win-win, really. Now, let's check out some other features. You can see below it says Eco Mode. Eco Mode is going to be really useful, guys, if you are away from your charger for a while and you think, yeah, I need to save some power on my phone. If you whack on Eco Mode, basically what it does is turns off 2 cores, and I can show you now, not in CPU, in Prefmon. If I go to here, you can see only 2 of my cores, well actually at the moment only 1, but only 2 of my cores will ever function. So it's basically turned my device into a dual core phone. And at the moment I can only show you it using 1 core because it hasn't used, there you go. You can see it's using 2 cores. So it's turned it into a dual core phone. You're obviously going to lose a little bit of performance, but if you're away from your charger and you want to save the most available battery, turn Eco Mode on and you'll save a lot. You can see you can turn it off and I'll use my rest of my cores. I should also mention, guys, that while looking through the Fox thread, I've noticed some people get something in the region of 7 to 8 hours of screen on time using like eco modes and underclocking and undervolting features, which is ridiculous. I can say that the maximum I've got on stock of screen on time is around 3 hours 45 minutes, and that was kind of not using, that was just kind of using websites, not playing games and stuff like that. But with a custom kernel like this and using some of its features, you're probably gonna get another 1 to 2 hours of screen on time minimum. So yeah, it's definitely worth it. Now the last option you have on this screen is Snake Charmer, and what Snake Charmer allows you to do is set the maximum clock frequencies for all the cores to be capped to a limit. So say you want to down clock it to 1.3 gigahertz in an attempt to save some battery life, you can do that, but you can see over here 1.5 gigahertz is still being used on the 3rd core, which is gay, and it just doesn't work right. So you need to turn Snake Charmer on, and what this will do is stop that core, or stop any core from using 1.5 gigahertz. And if I show you in CPU Spy here, I reset these stats, you'll see, if I just go ahead and open some apps here. So normally it would have used 1.5 gigahertz on a few of these cores. If I go and check out now, you can see the maximum is 1.3. So Snake Charmer is working, and it's working well. So if you want to down clock, use Snake Charmer. I'm not going to, so yeah. And that's the CPU tab, guys. Next up, guys, we've got voltage control. So you can flick over to this tab over here, and you're allowed to control the global CPU voltage. So if you want to control the individual frequency voltage, you'll have to get another app for that. You're not allowed to do that here. But yeah, you can see at the moment I'm running minus 125 microvolts on every frequency, and that is actually quite a lot. and I haven't run into any instability issues, and I believe that the voltage was actually set a little bit too high on this device on stock. And what this is going to do for you guys is really reduce the heat that's produced. I've been using this phone all day now, and it's at 20 degrees. You know, usually it might have been at like 30 degrees or something like that. Basically, this is going to do a great job in saving you from getting throttled when you're playing games or anything intensive. So yeah, that's the voltage. If we move over now to governor, you can see you can change the governor thresholds. To actually change the governor, by the way, you need to do that in the first tab, and you've got all these different ones you can use: conservative on demand, user space, power save, IntelliDemand, and performance. IntelliDemand is actually Fox's own creation. If you want to save a lot of power, use IntelliDemand. If you want to have the best performance, use interactive. So we'll skip over governor. You've got loads of different thresholds, stuff you can change. Now the GPU here, usually in his previous kernels, I don't know if it's just because I'm using his beta version, but you were allowed to change the clock rate of the GPU. And if you know the Nexus 4 has a stock GPU frequency of 400 megahertz, you can see here it's clocked in at 487. So I do actually have, a GPU overclock running. Not a massive one, but it is running. I haven't had any problems with that. But if you run his stable release, you can put it back to stock if you want to. Again, IO schedule stuff. I changed this to his recommended settings, and it's been perfect. You can see there's loads of different things you can change here, guys. That's what I mean by these custom kernels. They give you so many different options. You can see here, you've got USB fast charge if you want it, sleep to wake if you want it, dynamic file sync is on by default. You can change the vibration strength. And this is probably this is the reason I actually bought the app. You don't have to have his custom kernel to use this, but you can change the gamma and the way the screen looks. And I've made it look a little bit more bluey because I prefer a little bit bluey tint to my phones. And I think it looks fantastic here. I think the phone looks better than it ever has. And I would suggest getting his app or any custom kernel that has different color settings in stock, because you won't want to go back. You can also download his kernels from this app specifically, but yeah, guys, I've been really impressed with the custom kernel. There's loads of other stuff that you can't change that's going on in the background, like updated Google patches, all that sort of stuff in the kernel. He's got loads of stuff running, and I just want to mention something. Interestingly enough, his because he's using his own version IntelliPlug in the background, it doesn't benchmark well. I benchmarked it on Antutu, and it scored the lowest I've ever had. Now, I asked him why this was, and he said basically he's made the IntelliPlug understand that if it has a fake load, so if it has a ridiculous load, say for example a benchmark that clocks all the cores at ridiculously high for a long period of time, it actually downclocks them automatically, and basically it won't produce the best scores in benchmarks, but it will produce good battery life and performance all the way around the OS. And that's pretty much what matters, guys. So I'm not going to run any benchmarks here because they won't really prove anything. But the biggest features for me here are eco mode, snake charmer, and the voltage control. I think they're excellent. And like I said, my phone has been producing 5 to 6 degrees less since I've been running this kernel, no problem. You can see I've been using it here, and it really hasn't gone up at all. So this is a great kernel, loads of different features. Like I said, I will be testing out other kernels. So yeah, that's Fox's kernel for the Nexus 4, guys.